People, we are Tottenham TV back here for another Tottenham update as various reliable journalists Jack Pitbrook and Sammy Mockbell has come out speaking about what is going on behind the scenes with Thomas Frank, with the hierarchy. Are they backing him? Are they considering firing him? Well, let's get into it. As Sammy Mockbell says, there is no immediate threat to Thomas Frank's position at Tottenham despite Sunday's defeat to Nottingham Forest and the poor performance. However, support for the Dane is not universal behind the scenes, and the hostility from sections of the fan base earlier this season has been noted. Tottenham coach Thomas Frank is facing internal doubts, but some insist there'll be no knee-jerk reactions after the loss at Nottingham Forest. There is a sense that his position is under no immediate threat. There is currently a willingness at Tottenham to give Thomas Frank the opportunity to lay the foundations towards a path of success, similar to the one that Vinai Venkatesham gave to Mikel Arteta, as Vinai was integral to Arsenal's decision to stick with Mikel Arteta during some of Arsenal's lowest depths. And Jack Pitbrook says that the clear position of the majority shareholdings Lewis family is to stick with Thomas Frank and to give him the time at Tottenham. There is an awareness at Spurs that Thomas Frank is trying to rebuild a whole culture, and there is a recognition of the fact that the situation will take time to turn around. Wow. So it looks as though Frank is here. They are going to be backing their man. They are going to be giving him time to turn it around. But how long will this sentiment remain if the results and performances keep carrying on and keep regressing?
Exactly. And you know what? As much as they've given him backing and they've clearly fed this to, the journalist, this is clearly a reliable source within the Lewis family and higher up. The fact that they're having the need to do that is a worry for Frank, because this is basically like a bit of a public vote of confidence, and vote of confidence are never, in a way, a good thing, because as soon as it starts to turn, we know that vote of confidences can change very, very quickly. Now, we were saying in the match review, they're always going to stick with him now because there's no real option. I think they will stick with him for as long as possible, but the problem is, as long as these results continue, these performances continue, confidence is going to ebb away, and there's already doubts, as those articles say. There's some internal doubts, and the more these results happen, the more the doubts will grow, and then other people start having doubts, and it's going to spiral. So as much as they're given the public kind of backing of Frank now, it kind of seems a bit like a house of cards to me, as in like, it's now they're backing him, but it seems like a very precarious situation for me in terms of if there's many more of these performances, I think that could turn quite quickly. Yeah,
the thing is, right, I think if Levy was still here, I think he probably would have been gone by now. We've seen how, he can be very trigger happy at times, and obviously Levy's gone and they're trying to act a bit differently.
Well, they didn't sack Ange.
No, you're right. They didn't sack Ange, but
As
he
in
did
last season. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he did sack Nuno after 10 games.
Yeah,
and this is very similar to what we're seeing in that Nuno tenure. But what strikes out to me is the Vinai Venkatesham thing with Arteta, because there was countless amount of times that Arteta could have been sacked with Arsenal in his first couple of years there, and I guess the worry here is that, are we backing the wrong horse in terms of Thomas Frank? Like, obviously, I was a big backer of Thomas Frank, but he's just not showing us anything on the pitch. What Arteta did have is that FA Cup win. At least he had something to go on, didn't he? But, they stuck through him through bad times, 8 losses in a row. Do you think Frank could survive 8 losses in a row here at Tottenham Hotspur?
I don't. But in terms of Arteta, as you say, he had credit in the bank. He had shown what he can do. And yes, it was a terrible start to his second season, but he had the FA Cup, and as well, I think there were, if you look at his results in the league from when he took over to the end of the season, I think there was something like 5th or 6th. So they had dramatic.
But then it regressed after that.
It regressed, but then he actually had the early start to the season wasn't terrible, and then it regressed quite badly. He had, as you said, 7 losses, or I think it was 7 losses in 8 it was, and then they actually ended the season really strongly. But so there was like reasons to stick with it. That he had that FA Cup in the bank, he had a trophy, and in that trophy win, you have to say he was adaptable. He went to a back three. He tried different things, and they end up being Chelsea and City on the way. So he had that credit in the bank, And he obviously comes from a background of, first of all, having played for Arsenal, so he has that good credit with the fans. That although I know they were shouting to be out, but he was he was not a legend, but he was a good player for them. And he was obviously worked under Pep Guardiola and Man City for many, many years as their assistant. So he learned from him. He learned what it was like to be in a winning team and all that kind of stuff. And obviously he implemented that. He's now starting to implement that at Arsenal. So there's a lot of reasons to do that. The one thing for me is Tottenham are understanding that it's going to take time to rebuild the culture. Thomas Frank is trying to instill a new culture at Tottenham, and it's going to take time. I don't understand why we think Frank is the guy to instill that culture. What kind of culture are we trying to build? Why is Frank the guy to instill that kind of culture? What if there was an understanding with Frank, why hasn't there been an understanding with other managers about culture? Because all those other managers have been very adamant about the culture. We've heard about this for years, through Mourinho, through Conte, even through Ange. Said he said the foundations are low here because we wanted City to beat Arsenal, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's been conversations about culture, about the time it takes, but all of a sudden we think we are going full in on Frank being the guy. For me, Frank is not the guy for culture. Frank is the guy you bring in because he's tactically flexible. He's pragmatic. He's supposed to be getting you. He's supposed to be getting you challenging all four fronts. That's what we've been told. He's one who adapts to what he's got. He's the one who can work a lot with a little. He's the one who overperforms his wage budget. These are all the reasons, right? We've brought in Frank. So that tells me you bring this guy in because you think he can immediately, not say get you challenging right at the very top, but immediately change your fortunes. He can immediately get more out of the players than what they're getting because they finished 17th. Because you believe, we underperformed last season with the results we were getting, and you think this guy, he's adaptable, he's not going to just play one way, and he can make a system out of the players he has, and all these different things we were told. So for me, he's not the guy if you're looking to instill a culture, if that's the goal.
Well, he did create a very good culture at Brentford. You got to say that. Like, he did. Like, he headed up the whole new Brentford, pretty much, bring them up from the Championship, and everyone speaks about the culture being brilliant at Brentford. But the culture, I know Brentford at Tottenham are two different kettles of fish. They are. Compare. I know it's true. You can't compare. But when you're talking about culture, he brought a great culture to Brentford. Yeah,
okay, but it's irrelevant to Spurs. That culture at Brentford, where it doesn't matter where you finish, essentially, as long as it's 17th or above, that's completely different to Tottenham. Mm-hmm. We're trying to develop a winning culture. We're trying to develop a winning mentality. We're trying to develop a team that's challenging the very top. What he developed at Brentford is great for Brentford. It's brilliant, but that culture's got nothing to do with Tottenham. It's got nothing to do with where we want to be. So you can't really take that and say, okay, if he instills that at Tottenham, then it's going to be great, because it's irrelevant in a way. It doesn't matter, because that's not what we're trying to do here. So I don't understand why they would believe Frank is the guy to instill that. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying, having this belief that we're going to give him time to instill the culture he wants to, and having the belief in him that he's the guy to instill that culture, that doesn't make much sense to me why they would have belief in him. But now, look, I will say, obviously it wasn't this hierarchy who fired Conte and Mourinho and these other managers, and I don't know if you put the blame on Ange or not for sacking him. I don't know if it was that it wasn't them, obviously, who made those decisions, but they've been bang on about. And those are managers who have histories of winning, and histories of winning trophies, and history of building winning cultures. So if you're going to trust anyone, it would have been those guys. But we didn't. Could we have given them more than 2 years to try and build something? We didn't, but whatever. Again, I'm not going to lay the blame on the current hierarchy, because it wasn't them who made decisions. But for me, it's just
situations, though.
I understand that, but being a Tottenham fan, and having all that history behind us, and seeing us throw away these managers who have history of winning coaches, and then say, okay, we're going to trust Frank to be the one to instill that winning culture. Just I don't know, it doesn't make sense.
But the reality is that no matter what we think about Thomas Frank, or whether we think he's the man to instill the culture, they do. They went through this massive process in the summer to hire him. They landed on Thomas Frank. I backed it at the time. Some people questioned it. I think you questioned it at the time. It's irrelevant what the fans think in terms of that situation. If they have gone through that whole process and said, look, this guy's the guy, then surely from their minds, from their perspective, it's right to do what they're doing right now, and to stick with him, and to say, we're going to stick through the bad times. You're our guy.
That's what I said that in the review. Unfortunately, they've made their bed. There is no clear alternative right now. in terms of a top-class manager who's available without a club, just sitting waiting there, like there was with Conte when Nuno got sacked. He was just sitting there waiting for the call. Obviously, we sacked Ramos once mid-season. We brought in Redknapp, but the other alternative was do like what we did with Sherwood. Do we want to do that or bring in Mason?
But again,
Obviously,
why does it need to? Like, if they think Frank isn't the right guy and they're looking for other managers, you don't need to wait for a manager that's not at a club mid-season. You know, Man United took Ruben Amorim mid-season from Sporting Lisbon.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We could. You know, if we really wanted, you go at Vincenzo Italiano, you know, doing a very good job out in Italy.
Yep. Do we think he's the right guy?
Yeah. I mean, they think Frank's the right guy. That's my point.
I think it's more out of they don't really have an option, to be honest, right now. They've went with that direction. They're going to back their guy and they're going to give every chance. Look, at the end of the day for them, whether they sack him now or sack him in March or April or whatever, or even at the end of the season, there's no point. They might as well not admit they've made a mistake now. They might as well kick the can down the road and see if he can change course. Because if he can change course, all of a sudden it's not a mistake. But if he doesn't, okay, so they made a mistake and they just admit it later on. So I think it makes complete sense for them in their mind. They're wanting to show a new Tottenham, all this kind of stuff. They're going to give him time and they're not going to sack him. And I don't think there's a clear alternative right now. And I think they've laid their bed. So they kind of just got to roll with the punches until it becomes completely untenable. Right now, we're still.
But when is that point? That's the $1 million question.
I'll tell you when we're out of all the cups and we're not in the fight for Europe.
So I mean that could come pretty soon, to be honest.
It could.
Like we got Villa in the next round of the FA Cup. How long realistically are we going to last in the Champions League playing like this? We've had very lucky kind of results in the Champions League at times when we've played any sort of decent opposition.
Might lose in the playoff, to be honest.
Look, like we all been praising the Champions League until one defeat and no losses at home, haven't conceded a goal at home. But the reality is, Copenhagen and Prague, we deserve to win. None of the other games we probably deserve to win. Villarreal, we didn't deserve to win. That was probably a draw at best. Monaco, we deserved to get battered that game. We drew 0-0. Bodo, we drew 2-2. We definitely deserved to lose that game. So, I mean, realistically, we shouldn't be where we are in the Champions League. Realistically, we're 11th in the league. We probably shouldn't be there. We should be closer to the relegation zone. So, like, at what point is that going to, like, so you're telling me is what, we lose against Aston Villa, we keep dropping down in the league, is it going to be then? Is it going to be then in January?
Something like that. I don't think from what I'm...
Are we a month away?
I don't know, but from that article, that doesn't scream to me they're going to back him through thick and thin. It sounds like there's already doubts, but they're backing him for now.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like Vinay might just be pushing for, you know, he's had this tried and tested method with Arteta where he's stuck through thick and thin and they came out the other end with it. And
but it got better at some point.
But it might get better at some point with Frank if they keep backing him, keep giving him what he wants and what he needs.
Not forever. It got better. After you got for Arteta, by Christmas it was getting better. It wasn't bad for the whole season. He had a horrible period from, I think it was from September till November, that 8-game period. It was shocking, and I think they ended that period in 14th or something. But by Christmas it was getting better. They started winning a few games. I remember it turned around. They beat Chelsea at home, and also that season they did get to a semi-final of the Europa League. I know they didn't win it, but also that they did all right in Europe. And then I think they actually ended the season with 8 wins in 10 or something, really strong. And obviously from then on they started to kick on. So. With Arteta, yes, it was horrible and they stuck by him, fair play, but it did get better at some point. So obviously, if you're going to stick by Frank, it has to start getting better.
Yeah.
But now, if it does, I'm fine with that. Obviously, if it starts to get better, it starts to get better. That's cool, but it has to. We need to see signs of it getting better.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's tough to see that. We've had a few fits and spurts, but at the end of the day, clinging on to wins against Brentford and Copenhagen, it's just not enough.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And it's just hard. It's so hard, the situation that we're in right now, because I think everyone can recognise and realise that we can't just keep chopping and changing managers and expecting us to be a consistent winning outfit. But when you're seeing what you're seeing on a consistent basis and no sign of it getting better, and there's nothing, Frank has literally no credit in the bank right now to say like he deserves to stay in a job. Like, it's so difficult to know which way to go, and this hierarchy got some big calls to make over the next couple of months, and I don't know, man. I just don't know which way they're going to go with it. It does all point to Frank losing his job at some point, unless it dramatically changes, which I don't think anyone can see it dramatically changing, because we've got no evidence to suggest that it even can go that way. Like, what? We've got one performance against Brentford. in the last 2 months. That's what we've got.
And the thing is as well, what do we do about January? How much money do we give him? All that kind of stuff. Do we trust his... well, again, I don't know if it's going to be just... We say, do we trust Frank to have the money? But at the end of the day, it should be, is it a club decision? How much is Frank actually? Yes, he'll get the final say, but is he the one picking the players and all that kind of stuff? Probably not. So we still need to obviously upgrade the squad in January, regardless of Frank or not. But I think it was inevitable that right now they're going to stick with him because there's not really another option. There's no real alternative right now.
I think the way Spurs do transfers is that, they bring in players that can work under, any manager. Top quality players can work under different managers and different systems.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality. It's only like, I don't think we bring in like specific system players for specific managers, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we just do that.
Good.
So,
which we shouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. You can look at it either way. I think that's...
But if you really believe in a manager and he's going to be here for the foreseeable future, 5 years minimum, then you should be doing that. But if you're not sure in the manager, then you just got to bring in good players that can work under anyone.
No, I wouldn't buy anyone specific for Frank right now.
So look, it's we're going through a dark road into the darkness at the moment.
I think that's leading to a lot of frustration as well within the fan base because I think a lot of the fans don't really see, as much as they might be frustrated with Frank or might want him out, they don't really see another road rather than sticking with him. So it's leading to a lot of fans being checked out and being kind of apathetic because it's like, well, we're going to have to continue with this because there's not really an alternative. We don't know what other direction to go. And yet we also know this guy, or they think this guy, isn't good enough. So we're going to have to put up with his football until there's some point where there is an alternative. But right now it's like this is just the course of action. And it's leading to a lot of apathy, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of fans have checked out. And, we talk about the attendances at the stadium. Like, if things were going well and people enjoyed watching the team play, there would be bums on seats. That's the reality. No matter what the pricing is now, you're complaining about the pricing and you not being able to fill the seats. But if we were playing, decent football that fans could get behind, those seats would be filled. That's the reality. So all this kind of seats and pricing stuff, it's a valid point, and the pricing shouldn't be as high as that. But it all comes down to the product that you're being served up. And if this carries on, there's just going to be more and more empty seats. And they're going to have to act. And I don't know when that time comes because I don't know, something's got to change. And Frank needs to change something quick, and if he doesn't, then he's going to end up losing his job. But I just don't know with Vinay's kind of history with backing Arteta, and I know what you're saying, there were he had credit in the bank and stuff like that, but still, they're putting out the message that saying they're going to stick with him. So...
Yeah, but when you read that, do you really believe, okay, doesn't matter how bad it gets, they're going to stick with him? Is that what,
I don't really know. I don't know, because we don't know how these guys act.
I don't read that. I don't read into that that's the case.
Yeah, but you're trying to read between the lines. I know, but the reality is we don't know how these guys are going to act. Like, we know Vinay he's the man running the show at the moment. He's the CEO at the club. Obviously, he's not the only one that has a say, and it's a team of people that come to these agreements. But we know he's stuck through managers through thick and thin.
They're saying now internal doubts, but some doubts. Would you be surprised after Liverpool they go, now serious doubts? One more defeat, okay, he's under serious pressure, he needs a win. Another defeat, okay, he's got 2 games to save his job. I've seen these things spiral so many times after these kind of messages. This is nothing new. Like, yes, they're going to back him now, but if things don't improve, it won't last. Maybe it'll last a bit longer, but that is not a message to me that says this is our guy for sure. They're that certain.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if what you're saying happens, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we still see him here come the end of the season and things don't. But the thing is, if things keep going the way that it's going, we could be in a relegation battle. That's seriously the fear.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he is here till the end of the season, but they make a decision, he's gone at the end of the season, like they did. Well, that's what Ange believes that they did with him, that they already made their decision, whatever, and they just had him at the end of the season. So they might do that. They might do that.
But yeah, I guess like if you're looking at all the metrics, and we are like 17th and 18th for some of them, for a lot of like the key ones. Like, if it does get to a situation where we're hovering around that place in the league, they have to act, don't they? They're just going to have to.
Get Dyche away from Forest.
God, it's just scary times, man. It really is scary times. Like, how are we in this situation where we're talking about bloody relegation? I don't think we're going to get relegated, but like the way we're playing, you know, Leeds are playing better than us at this moment in time.
We're playing like a bottom three side, to be honest.
Exactly. So it's just like proper scary times here at Tottenham Hotspur. And it's going to be interesting to see how, if this does keep progressing before kind of the end of December, because we've got difficult games. We've got Liverpool, got Palace away, all before the new year. Like, if you lose those 2 games, you could be within 3 points of the relegation zone. Like, you might not be, but we could be. And if we're 3 points within the relegation zone going into the new year, like, are they really going to still be sticking with... I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just so lost. I'm so lost with this football club.
We're in between a rock and a hard place. I think the hierarchy, I think they just want to give it as much time. Like, they don't want to start thinking about new managers just yet. Vino's had that experience with Arteta. He wants to have another one of these on his CV. Like, oh, I stuck with him. He wants to have that on his CV. He did it again. Stuck with the right man, and he turned it around.
I understand it.
That's fine, but he has to start getting better. He can't just go bad in perpetuity and say, well, we stuck with Arteta, so this is going to work. Like, that's not how it works.
But also, it's just like, it's just how long is a piece of string, you know what I mean? Because like I said, if we lose our next 2 games, are they going to get like being like, look, we're near the relegation zone, it's enough is enough? But like, you can't put out saying like, we're in support of him, we think he can turn it around, and then 2 games later sack him.
But you can.
It's stupid though if they do.
I agree, but it doesn't mean they won't.
Yeah. Do you think they will? If we lose our next 2 games, are they going to sack him?
No.
3 games. Like, how many is it going to take, in your opinion? If you're guessworking.
Maybe like.
And if we go beat Liverpool, how much time does that buy him?
Yeah, probably buys him another 10 games.
You know what I mean? It's just like...
That's it. Apparently this game against Brentford bought him time. That's what they were saying in the article. You know, after the Fulham game, there was serious doubts. In the Brentford game and Slavia game, he did well, so it's bought him some time. But after this game against Forest, there's serious questions again. But apparently that game bought him time.
See, I wasn't even convinced after the Slavia game. Like, Brentford game, I was like, that was a convincing performance. But Slavia didn't even convince me. Like, I felt like I said it on the match review the day after. Like, I thought we gave away too many chances, and like they had too many shots on our goal, and better quality opposition would have put at least a few of them in the back of the net. The only proper convincing performance we've had this whole season is Man City and Brentford.
For 90 minutes, yeah.
It's the only ones. So, look. At this moment, the message from the club is that we're backing our man. Let's see how long that continues. And, you know, I know in this video I've gone back and forth and probably argued with myself in my head because I don't even know what to think anymore. I really don't know what to think anymore.
Uncharted territory with this new hierarchy, so we'll see. But I think they're putting it out for now. But I think they'll probably they will give it more time. But I don't think this is like he's our guy no matter what. I don't buy that.
Yeah, well... That's not what that 10-point process said. 10-point process said, this is our guy, this is our guy.
He needs to rip up that process. I do not trust the process. I do not trust it.
Oh, God. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. How much time does Frank have if he keeps turning out these kind of displays for Tottenham Hotspur? Liverpool next. Happy days. We'll see you all later. Let us know your thoughts. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.